Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome to Little Star YouTube channel. This is me, Yovasan Shanmugam, and in this video, we are going to see about the plugins. What is a plugin? Why we use a plugin, and how to use or how to install a plugin in Apache JMeter. So before we move on, let's see why or how does this plugin help. So Apache JMeter, as we all know, is a very powerful tool for load testing, and it has many features built in. And there is one more powerful thing with the JMeter is that it is an open source software, and therefore it gives the flexibility for any developer to build additions that will extend its capabilities and insert functions and add more power to the JMeter tool. And these additions are called plugins. And there are a lot of developers who have already created a huge variety of useful plugins which are more powerful and useful to the JMeter community. So today we will see how to add a plugin, and we will see about one of the very useful plugin that we are going to use in our JMeter testing, and we'll see it step by step. So firstly, we have the JMeter plugins manager. So there are basically two ways to install the plugins into JMeter. For that, the first option is the plugins manager. So the idea of JMeter plugins manager is very simple and quick. So instead of installing various plugins manually, it will do it for us through the simple UI. There is no need to mess with any jars or any files where we have to confuse ourselves, like where we have copy pasted any jar files or any other supporting files. And this installs the plugin manager once, and it will do for us. So it will install, it will upgrade, and we can even uninstall the plugins which we do not want at a later point of time. And this plugin managers include usual plugins from jmeterplugins.org. So that is where we normally get the plugin. So this is something like an Apple store and an Android store where we get all the apps. So this is where we get all the plugins. So we can go through, we can find various third-party plugins and even the core JMeter plugins. First, let's see how to install the plugin using the plugins manager. So for that, we have to go to the options menu, and under options, we have this plugins manager. And once we click on plugins manager, we could see we have three tabs. One is the installed plugin. So this will show us the list of installed plugins which we have installed after we have created, after we have opened the JMeter, I mean after we have started using JMeter. And then we have this available plugin. So this will have a list of available plugins, whatever it is. Like it can be a listener, it can be a plugin, it can be a graph, it can be a sampler, or whatever, any type of plugins. We can see it here which are available. And then we have the upgrades. So this available plugin, if we are outside of our company or any of our VPN, or inside outside of your client network, we have option to install. But in case if we are inside our client network or the organization network, we might not be able to get it due to various proxy issues. So today we'll see how to fix that. So for now, I'm closing it, and today I'm going to show you how to install the first plugin which we're going to discuss today, and that is the three basic graphs. And for that, I have already downloaded the file here. So this is the file I have downloaded, and I have extracted it. So under this JPGC graphics basic 2.0, I have this lib, which is the library folder, and then here I have my Apache JMeter. So this is where we run the Apache JMeter. So under this Apache JMeter, we have the bin, and we used to kickstart our jmeter.bat file. So this is the same location I have with me on the right side. So under this, I'm opening the lib. So here is the library folder. I'm opening the library folder where I have extracted, and I'm opening the library folder on the right hand side, which we have for the JMeter. I'm opening it, and under this ext, so we can see the same structure under the lib. So where we have the ext, and I'm opening it the same way from the installation, from the downloaded file. So I'm just copying them and I'm pasting it. So since I have already copy pasted it here, so I'm just replacing it again for us, and then I'm going again back to this JMeter plugin, CM and JMeter hyphen 0.4. So for to copy paste this, I have to come outside of the ext. So make sure you're coming outside of this ext folder, and now you are in the lib folder, that's a library, and then you copy pasting it, and again you are replacing the file. So with this we have installed the plugin. So this is so quick, but the only thing is like we do not want to get confused. So that is the reason we are using this option of using this plugins manager, but still for most of the cases we might not have it. For that reason we are using, or we are doing this. And once you have made all these changes, we'll have to restart the JMeter, otherwise it won't be getting reflected. So let me click. So now we have restarted our JMeter, and let's now open a sample, one of our sample project. So here we have our sample test script, and now let us, so we have already, so let's now add the basic graphs. So the first graph out of these three basic graphs is going to be active threads over time listener, and to add that I have to right click on the thread group, go to add, and then choose listener, and under listener I have this active threads over time. So this active threads over time listener shows a graph of how many concurrent users are active in each thread group during a test run. So for that, let's make some changes in the thread group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 10 users, and then the ramp up period is going to be 5, and then the loop count is going to be 10. And let's now run the test and see how does it work, or how does this active thread over time work. And before that we have the rows option, and then we have this settings option. So here we have various options of increasing and decreasing the graph settings. So this value which you see here, the group timeline value, so this actually shows us at how much interval do we need to collect the values. Say for example, if I'm running the test, do I need to collect the values for every 1 second, or do I need to collect the value for every 5 seconds, or do I need to collect the value for every 10 second? So this are 60 seconds. So this is how it is going to work. So if we want to collect the data for every 5 seconds, we can choose this 5000 millisecond. And again we have two types of graphs. One is the detailed display, and next is the aggregated display. So the detailed display will show the response, or shows the active users for each and every user, and when it comes to aggregated, it collects all the values in one single display. So for now what we do is we will select the 2000 as the granularity, and let me run the test and let's see how does it work. So here we have 10 users with 5 ramp up second, and then we have 10 loop iterations. Let me start the test. So here we can see the test has started, and for every 2 seconds we could see there is a ramp up of the users, and this is how the test goes. So we can see the user has reached their maximum point. So here we can see the user has started with 2, and then they have moved to 4, and then to 8, and then they have reached a maximum user load of 10 users, and then they were continuously doing their 10 iterations. So that is how this test goes. And now they have slowly started to ramp down, and here we can see at which point of time does each user ramps down. So, and again we have this time, so we have this time of seeing at like which point of time do we start the test, and even we can make some changes. If we want to use relative times, we can choose that, or if we want to have, say for example, if you want to see the start and end of the test, so here we can see that the test has started at 23:40, and then the test has ended at 23:41. So this actually gives us the real time value. So in case if you want to just see the start and end, we can choose this use relative times, and in case if we want to see the actual time, we can just uncheck this and we can see the actual time of the test. So this shows us the concurrent users, or how many concurrent users are active in each thread group during a test run. So let's now move on to the second graph, which is the response times over time listener. So the same way, so I'm going to have to right click on the thread group, go to add and go to listener and choosing the response times over time listener. And the same way, so here we have the same set of settings, which is the select choosing the granularity. So previously in our active threads over time I have chosen 2 seconds. So for now I'm choosing 1 second to see how quick or how more number of data we are going to collect. And then we have two types of graph, again same like what we see for active threads over time. We have detailed display, and then we have the aggregated display, and we have user relative times. So let's now run this test and see how does it work. So I'm starting the test now, and here we can see the response times of each of the request or for each sampler during the test run. So here we can, so let's go to the chart, and here we can see for the S11, so the response times is around 180 milliseconds. So any response times that we see here are in the milliseconds view. So in case if we want to export the values to CSV, we can do that. So right click on the graph and click on export to CSV, and automatically the values we can get them through these in a CSV format, that is in an Excel sheet format. So the test is still running, and still since we have chosen 1 as the granularity, we are able to see more number of data in the graph. So now the test has completed, and we are able to see, or we can find that how much response times do we get for each of these response with the user load. And let's now move on to the third graph, which is the transactions per second listener. So let's see how to add that, and for that I have to choose the thread group, right click on it, choose add, and then come to listener, and then under that we have to choose transactions per second. So what does this transaction per second listener does? So this shows a graph of the number of successful and failed transactions per second for each of the sampler during the test run. Also it has two types of graphs, one is the detailed display and aggregated display. So let's see how does it work. So let's go to the settings, and we have this detailed display and the aggregated display. And here for a change, let's now change it to 5 seconds. So previously for the active threads over time we have 2 seconds, we had 2 seconds of test, and then in the response over time we have 1 second. And for this transaction per second, let's change it to 5 seconds, and let me run the test and let's see how does it work. So I have started the test, and here we can see, so since we have chosen 5 seconds, so we will be getting the results for every 5 seconds. So here we can see the test has started at the 0th second, and then we have got the result at the 5th second, and then at the 10th second, and then at the 15th, and then it is at the 20th second. So this is how we will be getting the results, and this actually helps us if in case we are running a test. So say for example a test which runs for a 8 hours test, a soak test kind of testing, we can increase the granularity, and in case if we are running a load test, we can decrease the granularity so that we can get more value. So it all depends on what kind of objective of test do we have. In case if the test goes long, we can increase the granularity. In case if the test is too quick, or if it is a kind of test which you run for less than 2 hours, we can reduce the granularity. So again, the this particular graph, the transactions per second graph, tells us the number of successful and the failures. So here you can see every transaction is a success one, and then when we go to the settings and when we choose the aggregated, and here we can see that all the success have been added in a one particular graph. So we could see that at this particular point of that is during the 5th second, we could see that there are around 13 successful transactions. That is the collection of all transactions. The same way we can see for the entire test. So this is the first plugin we have seen. I hope this video would have been very useful to you. We'll meet with another interesting plugin in our next video. Until then, it's bye bye from Vasan Shanmugam and Little Slaw. Please do subscribe to our Little Slaw YouTube channel. Thank you.